On August 2, 2077, a major rail collision happened outside of St. Gratitudeberg, Sudrian. Many tries hit the collision, in which it causes a more fire. This disaster will show the mismanagement of a large massive world railroad. This collision would also cause the death of famous writers and political figures, and the end of a famous steam locomotive. This became known as the Ultravon St. Gratitude collision. When the Arales War was declared over, many soldiers from the Randallan Republic, the Sudrian Union, and the German Republic were returning to civilian life. This caused not a lot of jobs for many of the people in these countries, with many factories in the Sudrian Union filled of returning soldiers from the war. Railroads and highways were being constructed around the country. Sudrian railways were modernizing. Many nations came to look over the work of the rail company. In 2023, the British Railway Network finally withdrew all their steam engines from service, and to be directly sent to the Sudrian Union. By 2045, all steam engines from the Randallan Republic were sent to the Sudrian Union. This was to get known as the Sudric Modernization Scheme, which made the Sudrian Union 2.500 thousand Sudrian marks, which is about $5,965,000 in today payments. Around this time, the Randallan government and the Sudrian government were taking of making a railroad that can go all around the world. However, many plans were thrown out until 2056. The 2047 plan went into effect of November of that year. Almost immediately, many countries were connected via a railroad to come together. These railroads being the Randallan Federal Railroad, Union Pacific, the Notan Imperium Railroad, and the Sudric Railroad of Solution. The headquarters being at St. Gratitudeberg, located in the Sudrian region. The name of the railroad was given was the World United Railroad. Many workmen were hired, being porters, staff, driver and firemen, foremen and guard. British Railways left the project in 2060 following their own modernisation plan.
British Railways' enormous modernisation scheme goes full steam ahead. Of the estimated £1,200 million to be spent in 15 years, 1/3 has now been committed. Work is on schedule. The aim is to make British Railways the best in the world. Throughout the programme, the technique is modernity itself. 250 route miles will be electrified, and the first phase of the scheme, as far as Ramsgate, Dover and Sheerness, will operate by June 1959. By 1962, all lines in Kent will have been electrified, and the Kent Coast Line will not only carry the heavy and always increasing holiday traffic, it'll also improve residential services for people working in London. Diesel locomotion, welcomed by the head of the British Transport Commission, Sir Brian Robertson, is now being established on main lines that are not electrified. This is another aspect of the modernisation programme. Easily driven, easily and quickly maintained, the diesel nowadays has overwhelming advantages over the steam locomotive. And paradoxical as it may seem, it pays the railways and the country to run trains on imported oil rather than on home-produced coal. Still steam-hauled by magnificent engines are most of the crack trains of the western region. It's no use washing whiter if the Cornish Riviera passes the clothesline. The famous King-class locomotives pull another Western region flyer, the Bristolian. Fastest train in Britain, the Bristolian at times exceeds 100 miles an hour. Its average for the run, 67 miles an hour.
on August 2, 2077, and Russian L-Class was leaving from Gratitude Station in Lobet Street. Many trains were expected at the station, especially the Imperium Special, a fast passenger train that travels from Manila to London. Meanwhile, a goods service called the Trango service was heading from the branch line that supplies oil for the Sudrian industry. All trains are approaching Locken Junction to wait for both the L-Class train and the Imperium Special to pass each other. Unexpectedly, King Edward II, which was going on a tour across the world, was heading to Gratitude Station. This caused panic at the signal box as there are not enough tracks that all the trains that could pass through the junction. An alarm was raised that was supposed to send to the station, but nothing came. Many communication from the box was sent to the station, but still nothing came. At this point, as the trains were coming closely at each other, the signalman called the fire brigade, telling them that crash is going to happen. King Edward and the L-Class got closer and closer, and then the two trains passed through the signal, and then the switches. Disaster struck. King Edward II smashed into the L-Class at 6:31 AM in the early morning. The L-Class crashed on the other side, smashing into the Trango goods train, causing a massive fire, which it spread all over the coaches. Soon the Imperium Special tripped over the wreckage and smashing into the rest of the goods train, which caused an explosion, which destroyed the signal box and half of a cornfield not far from the junction. Many people from both trains soon burned to death, with very few escaping. Among people in the Imperium Special was Alex Larson, a Randallan book writer and historian, while on the L-Class train was Alice Sufton, a former general of the USGR. When the Sudrian State Fire Service arrived a few minutes, they were taken back by the burned victims outside of the wreckage. But the worst came when ventured to the Imperium Special train. Many of the people that were burned on the train were women and children and men, who were still trapped in their seat belts, or were crushed by the steel of the coaches on top of them. Approximately 19 million people died on both trains, with the surviving members being took all of the Sudrian hospitals. Sadly, both Alex and Alice were instantly killed from the crash due to their age. Many people from nearby towns came to help the injured and severely injured. This was the worst disaster in the world, and the most expensive rebuildment in world history. The Sudrian media soon arrived to start their news report. It was played all over the world, and many people still wonder, how did it come to this? Immediately after 3 days of the disaster, the NTSB of Sudrian and the NTSB of the Imperium all started a federal investigation. Many of the investigators believe that it was caused by the Universal Alliance. This, however, was immediately dropped, maybe due to that many nations joined the railroad prior to the disaster. The cause of the initial disaster was miscommunication with King Edward II, which was going on a world tour. Not only that communications were unknowingly cut from the signal box and the station, and that tracks were welded off. This made many of the investigators think that it was an act of sabotage. That is, until they turned to the engine that was hauling the Imperium Special. It was found out that 3,236 didn't have a good safety record. Being built in 1919, the train had many rusted parts, caused excruciating heat, which caused some of the rails to melt off, which all they lead towards the fire and the sequential explosion. The NTSB of the Imperium immediately fired all the staff had worked on the locomotive, only for them to be ordered to be executed by Joseph X into 996. However, the Imperium Railroad is not the only cause for the disaster. It was also found out that Edward II brakes blocks were missing from his wheels. Not only that, but the Sudrian Union never installed positive train control on Thera engines nor Thera tracks. Their railroads, as many people would call it, is outdated. Sudric Rail had still been using the old Sudric 1922 system, which being dropped by other nations in 2008. As soon as his news came out, Sudric Rail responded by saying,
by many senators who voted on keeping this act back in 2008, many of them approved that this system to be useful as we've been using it for many generations.
The Randallan government brought back some of the acts back in 2018 to bring back steam trains, as oil and fuel prices were getting higher at the time. Positive train control, or PTC, are designed to prevent train-to-train collisions, overspeed derailments, incursions into established work zones, and movements of trains through switches left in the wrong position. The L-Class also had reset safety control button, which an engineer has 10 seconds to press the button or else the brakes came on. Sudric Rail had it, but not Imperium Rail. Due to the steam engine not having a comfort cab nor for any adjustments to it. The Notan Imperium Railroad, although not the most safe railroad, had many incidents resulting to outdated steam engines burning up, causing the coaches to burn this way, especially one happening in 2030, what an old tank engine first open, causing the coaches to be in blazes. As a result of the findings, the Notan Imperium government filed lawsuits against the Randallan Federal Railroad and Sudric Rail. However, before the date of the trial begin, both government archive buildings have been burnt down and destroying all the files for both railroads. For a long time it was unknown who caused the fire, but many people speculate that it was the Brotherhood of Sudric, which would make their mark on history. However, this is another story, and in 2089, the World United Railroad disbanded all railway operations in Thera, their company, after the company filed bankruptcy in 2081. However, it wouldn't be long until another war broke out, which became known as the Vu War. As for the locomotives in question, by orders from Loretta Kroshba, the head in command and head of the transport community of Sudria, she ordered the O-Class and the Notan Imperium steam engine to be withdrawn and scrapped at Nova Island scrapyard, as well as King Edward II. As for the L-Class, she is still in service as of today, and has been recently refitted as an oil burner and renamed to Lady Sudria. However, many years later after the incident, many survivors come forward to explain their stories of the disaster, thanks to St. Gratitude Disaster Relief Fund, which vow to bring all the people who caused the disaster to pay in justice. Even though that they are gone, doesn't mean they're forgotten.